This is it. Double digits. We're not singles. 2 full hands, boys.
10.
Episode number 10. And we have hit our first goal of 100 subscribers on YouTube.
We did it.
Hey, it's
So
awesome.
We have our own unique channel now. It's youtube.com/c/GPS to God.
So what exactly is the C?
I think it's a short for channel, I think. But
Okay.
I would not bet money on that. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Because that was a common thing. But we made it, but we're not done. We still want to do bigger and better things. So make sure you rate and you review and you subscribe on all the platforms to help us continue to grow. Speaking of growing, picked up a new country this week, Canada, our neighbors to the north. So we appreciate that. Reach out to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, and we'll see what we can do about that. But podcast at parkwaybc.net, podcast at parkwaybc.net. We want to hear from you no matter where you are, listening or watching. We want to entertain you. So that's what we're here for, to help and entertain. And today we're going to do a little bit of all of that with our guest. this man.
Today, what you don't realize is after today, you will probably plummet below 100 subscribers.
It's going to shoot us up to 200.
Yeah.
This gentleman was mentioned in the very first episode, so it's.
I was? I'm just playing.
Rico.
Yes.
I think it was referenced something along the lines of the infamous Dr.
much so.
Rick Barkley.
Yes.
That sounds
I
correct.
think
Yes.
y'all might have added the infamous. I
So-
don't think Rico. Well, I don't remember.
The class
I
has
think
been,
I said that,
the
but
class has been brought up on this episode for
but
sure.
he has. We could not keep him away any longer. We finally got him on after weeks of going back and forth with his agent, and we came to a deal, and he is here. It's
Bingo.
So we're glad to have Dr. Rick Barkley with us, and he's going to talk several things about missions, overseas missions, and work. And he is a dentist by trade. And how long have you been a dentist?
I have been a dentist 45 years.
45 years.
As of August 1st, last week, I've been a dentist 45 years.
45
That's awesome.
years.
That is amazing. That's all.
So is anybody in the room here 45 years old?
How old are you?
September, about a little over a month. I'll be the 4-5.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm 40. He's
And I'm nowhere close.
yeah.
It's distressing,
Right,
but
about
it is
20
what it
years.
is. You know, it is what it is.
45 years.
That's a lot of teeth.
That is a lot of teeth.
That's a lot of teeth.
So I know a lot of people are scared of going to the dentist.
Right.
What would you say to someone who is scared? Like, what is a piece of advice you would give them, or a misconception that you would say that it's really not like that?
Yeah, if you're scared of going to the dentist, just have sort of an introductory visit with the dentist, you know, and where you don't have to do, you know, a whole lot, or you can meet your dentist, or just go in for an exam and let him look around.
Bring them lunch or bring them a snack.
Bring them cash.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay. You know,
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. So it's just it's like treating kids. It's best to get the kids there. You know, just your goal is to get them comfortable, and so that's you just got to get comfortable, or go to a dentist, you know, or you get good recommendations. So, and I put people at ease. You know,
I believe that.
but this is not an advertisement.
So,
I didn't. I was going to show my business card,
Yeah.
but I decided not to.
well, no free sponsorships here. So
Right.
we are looking for our first sponsor. If you want to, break the seal on that,
There you go.
We'll give you a brother-in-law deal. But
Let me think on that.
yeah, we'll talk after.
I
the
don't
show.
know if this is safe to be a sponsor of.
We can wrap his face on the side of these water bottles and be like, there you go.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Dr. Rick Barkley. So I have a question.
Okay.
I've always wondered this. Most dentists are closed on Fridays. Why is that?
Well, when I first started practicing, we were open all week, because this was back in the 70s. Most dentists took off on Wednesday, and then I worked a little bit on Saturday. But I mean, just think about this now. This doesn't take there's Friday, and then there's Saturday, and then there's Sunday. So if you could have a day off nearer the weekend, you would take a day off nearer the weekend. But there are a few that still work. Dr. Harding, who I work with, her office is open every other Friday. But it just makes a long weekend.
So, because I can. That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because I can. Yeah.
But would you do a Friday or would you do a Monday?
Well, the Monday after a weekend, you get a lot of calls. So
you?
it's just best. It's good to be there on a Monday.
Yeah.
The business side of it, yeah.
Most people probably
That
think
makes
you're
sense.
checked out on Friday anyway.
Right.
But if they need you, they can find you. I mean, I've been in on Fridays, I've been in on Saturdays, and I've been in on Sundays.
So you got to think about it. If you're going to schedule a dentist appointment, do you want to schedule it on Friday or Monday? Like, I'm going to schedule on Monday, miss that Monday work for an hour.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And I don't work on Mondays anymore, so that sounds good
Right.
to me.
Well, after 45 years, you can
deserve
You
it.
pretty much have the right to say what I
Yes.
want to
You
work.
do whatever
pick
you
and
want to do.
choose. But so we're going to talk about Rick and some of the adventures he's gone on, going overseas and doing mission work, and let him tell us those stories. Do you know how many countries you've been to?
It's probably 10 or 12.
Wow.
I should have counted before I got here, but I could list them, but it's probably 10 or 12.
And what's the process for that? Is that through a missions
Usually,
group, or is it just something
when
you
I
do?
first started going, I went through the International Mission Board, and so there were teams that would go places, and I would go as the dental part of that team. And then I got to know enough people that, or know enough people around the world, or know enough people that were making trips, that I could sort of find a trip that I wanted to go on. And then when the Couts were stationed in Benin, well, then Ken Williams started going to Benin, so then I would go with him. So it's usually you go through the International Mission Board, but you can head out on your own. I've been to several countries on my own.
So when you go on something like that, what do you see? What third world country? What we would call third world countries mainly.
Yeah.
Low income, high poverty.
Yeah, Yeah, you just see extraction. I mean, if you're doing stuff, you just see extractions, or sometimes you see growth in their mouth. Probably one of the grossest, not grossest, but I had a guy in the Philippines once that he had a tumor growing out of the roof of his mouth, and it came down, and then it bent where it was between his teeth, so he couldn't chew his teeth together. He just it was a big tumor, and I remember that we really couldn't do anything to him. We had to send him to a hospital, but so most of the time you just extract teeth. I have been on trips where you did fillings and stuff like that, but most places you go, you just extract teeth.
And how long would those trips be normally?
Well, the early trips, my first trip to Africa or the Philippines were about 2 weeks. And now they're about a week or 10 days. Or if you're going to Central America, you can do that in a week.
So when did you start doing this? What year about?
The first trip I ever made was in 1983, and I went to a country in West Africa. Called Burkina Faso, and so I went to Burkina Faso for 2 weeks, and that was with a Southern Baptist group, and my wife will kill me for doing that, but you can edit it out.
I could.
Please don't.
I'm not.
Please don't.
So I went to Burkina Faso for 2 weeks, and there was a sort of a community project done. They were digging a well. They were sending a few medical people, and so I hopped on it as a dental. So in '83 I went to Burkina Faso, and in '84 I went to Dominica, which is an island in the Caribbean.
So when you said the trips used to be longer, is that because travel was harder back then, or just travel took longer, or just the nature of the trips?
It was the nature of trips to the Philippines. So when you go to the Philippines, it just takes probably a couple of days to get there and get home. So it was, they were longer, and now I can go to Africa in maybe 10 days, 12 days, so it's not 14 or 15 days. So It was mainly where you were going. The Philippines was just a long trip. Back then, there were no cell phones. There were no,
Right.
So I'd leave home, and I wouldn't communicate with home for 2 weeks. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
that was. But West Africa is a little further. The Philippines is a little further. So those are about the farthest I've been.
So let's bring it back a little to home. Well, free advice here. Free dental care. This is
Okay.
free dental care. What is the worst thing people can do for their teeth or their oral health that you would say, don't do that?
Well, I wouldn't chew ice.
Really?
No.
I wouldn't chew hard candy. Those are two things. You need to brush them, floss them. I don't think any of y'all are tobacco chewers, but you don't need to chew tobacco. That's a no-no. And, of course, smoking is worse for other parts of your body. It makes it hard to clean them, but it's not as damaging to your mouth as it is to your lungs. But chewing tobacco, sweets, those are just the stuff that, hard stuff, most of the stuff that you know about.
So chewing ice, what is that? Does that
It's just
hurt
hard.
the enamel
Yeah,
or
it
something?
breaks the enamel. So it can just damage the enamel. If you have a pretty good sized filling in it, chew ice, the dentist would go cha-ching, 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 because you're going to break the tooth and you're going to need a crown or something more expensive.
Interesting.
So eating sugars obviously is a bad thing, but ice is a bad thing. And but I had a guy once, and he would throw a mint. He had a mint, a box of peppermints at his desk, and when he walked by his secretary, he'd grab a mint. He kept a mint in his mouth all day long. I can't mention his name and he has lost. He's still living and still my patient, but he's lost a bunch of teeth and had to spend a lot of money in his mouth because he just kept steady sweets going into his mouth.
So one of the things, like you were talking about, that guy that has he had a tumor coming out of his mouth. Would that be your craziest thing you've seen, or like as far as a story that you've had to do work on, what would be like one of the weirdest, craziest, whatever?
Well, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't work on him.
Okay.
Most of it, for me, has just become pretty typical extractions. It's not. I mean, for y'all, it would be a big deal. Like, I did a clinic here in Nashville last week, and I pulled every tooth in this guy's upper jaw, 14 teeth. So that's pretty
Oh my goodness.
dramatic. But,
Wow. That is.
But most of it's pretty typical. You just extract teeth, and around the world, there's just not dental care like we have here. So,
Yeah.
you just extract teeth.
What would you say? Is there an advantage for like manual toothbrushes or electric toothbrushes, in your opinion?
You didn't know you were going to get all
No,
these
I
hard-hitting
didn't.
questions today.
That's
I
one
can
that
talk
I.
more about missions than I can about dental toothbrushes. Well, probably the studies would show that if you use the Oral-B mechanical, not movement sonic brushes. Now there may be somebody from the American Dental Association call me and say that was the wrong answer, Rick Barkley. But
Well, what did he say? 7 out of 10 dentists or 8 out of 10 dentists?
Right, there
He's
you
a
go.
2 or 3.
There you go. That's fine. You're protected. You're protected here.
so yeah,
That unorthodox.
But now I use a manual brush. I
Yeah.
just like using a manual brush. So
Okay.
it's usually the answer is which one you use the most and the best.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
you can use a sonic brush or a Oral-B brush more or better. Yeah, they probably would clean better.
Gotcha.
So.
Just curious. Sorry.
But
Back
you
to missions.
always need to.
Back to missions.
And I could have brought some floss, and I could have showed y'all how to use floss, but I didn't. But
I can't-
flossing is one of the best things you can
I can't use floss the same way y'all use floss.
I floss every day.
Nice.
I have to.
No, I have a bridge in the front of my mouth, all front of my teeth, the whole front end.
So now everyone's going to be looking.
Yeah.
All 3 of these are fake right here.
How did you lose those?
Oh, you want to hear this? This will be a fun story.
I'll tell you a story. I'll match your story with another story.
All right, so I'm a freshman in high school, and our high school is in one area, and our football field was in between the middle school and the high school. So and instead of being lazy, or I was being lazy, and I wouldn't go back to the high school to catch the bus. So I would always go to the middle school, catch the school bus there. Well, y'all know how tall I am. I'm only 5'6", so I'm only like 5 foot even at a freshman. And this kid at the middle school now picking on me, he's younger than me, throws my backpack up onto an awning. So I go to jump up there to grab it. I can't reach it, of course. So this other kid that I know jumps up there and grabs it. When he comes down with the bag, I'm going up. And the little tiny hole on the zipper catches my bracket on my braces of my front tooth and rips my tooth out of my mouth. Wow. So we put in milk, which I don't even know if that's even calcium.
What you would suggest you do.
Okay, so that's what we did. We go to my doctor, or my dentist, I meant, and he puts it right back up in there because the braces actually held it in place. So he just had to slide it back up, the root and everything back up in there. But then it died 10 years later and had a root canal and all that kind of good stuff. So now I got a bridge. Yeah.
So my story also involves a tooth being knocked out.
Okay.
I was playing ice hockey. I was like 20, 21, 22, somewhere in there. I was playing ice hockey. I didn't have a cage or face shield on. And I don't know if I fell or I got knocked down or whatever, but I was sitting down on the ice. The puck was near me. There was a couple players around me. We're all kind of fighting for the puck. This guy came and just took a wild swing with his stick. Missed everything, missed everyone, hit me square in the mouth, knocked my front tooth out, one of my front teeth. So I got it, finished the game, went. This was
that's a smart kid right there.
It was the
What's
end,
more important?
Stud.
It was the end of the
Stud.
game. Don't get me like there was 3 minutes left or something, but this was late. This game started at like 11 o'clock at night, so it was after midnight when it ended, and I went to the hospital, to the emergency room, and they're like, "Well, we'll evaluate you for a concussion, but we don't have any dentist or anything on call at this time." And I was like, "Well, I'm good other than my tooth. Like, if you can't do anything for my tooth, I'm out." So they made me sign a paper that I was leaving against medical advice. But anyway, that's not part of the story. So I leave. I put the tooth in milk.
Yeah.
This was a Thursday night. So Friday morning I get up and I'm calling, and that's where I find out all the dentists are closed.
On Friday.
On Friday.
How convenient.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
So actually Ken Williams was working on that Friday, and
he's a workaholic.
I went in, and this was a long time ago, went in, and I'm kind of at their mercy as just a walk-in, like, "Hey, I got my tooth knocked out, can you help?" And he did. He put it back in, and he asked me what happened, and I said, "Well, I put it in milk, got it knocked out, put it in milk." And he said, "How'd you know to do that?" And I said, "I thought that was common sense." He's like, "No, a lot of people don't know that." So, public service announcement, if you happen to lose a tooth that you want to keep, put it in milk until you get back to the dentist. But that's a short-term
Do
fix.
you still have the tooth in your mouth?
I do not. So he told me at that time, and for those of you that don't know Dr. Ken Williams, he is a large man. And was larger then than he is now, just for, he was a younger chap, but he kind of leaned me back, and, man, he was jamming that tooth in there. I had tears coming out. That hurt. But he told me then, he's like, "This is a short-term fix. This tooth will eventually die." But I think I kept it. It lived for 4 or 5 years. Which was longer. He said you might get a year out of it, so it made it longer than predicted.
I got one I put in. He knocked it out at Moss Wright Park playing ball, and I put it in, and it's been in about 25 years probably.
Wow.
So that's a real blessing.
Yeah. So mine, I was actually having my teeth cleaned, and the hygienist cleaned everything. The doctor came in to look, and he noticed a
blister.
Something on the back. He's like, "That doesn't look right," and he poked it, and some pus and whatever came out. And he's like, "Yeah, we need to do something with this."
That's what makes the world go round.
Yeah. But I'm part Terminator. Got a nice dental implant, and it's good stuff.
Yeah.
But so, how has the dental industry changed since you started until now? Like something that would.
Yeah, when I started, there weren't lights, curing lights you can shine on the material and make it. I mean, if you were to say, of course, implants is big. I mean, you do more of those than ever before. But really, for me, those curing lights, we call them, that cure it and make it get hard, those are one of the handiest things that's happened. Of course, we used to not wear gloves. Now we wear gloves. There's a lot of changes. You have hand pieces with lights on them. Just a lot of stuff. But I would always say, well, man, that light sure does a great job, because it takes away the time frame. So if you used to mix stuff, you had to get it in the mouth quick. Now you can put it in, shape it, mold it, get it the right color, and cure it. So.
Right. So I had
that's really exciting. I know.
I'm always.
You had me drooling over here. I was like, what?
I'm amazed at how things work. Like, I want to know how things work and the behind the scenes stories and all that. So about everything. So that amazes me. One thing. So I have a crown, and when I had it put on, you put they put the, I don't know what it's called, but like the Play-Doh kind of stuff in your mouth, and you got to sit there and let it harden. And then they would send that out and have the crown made, so you got different appointments. And that crown came off or broke or something, so I went to get it replaced.
And they made it in the office.
They made it in the office in like 10 minutes. Yeah. And he had this little tool, like a camera or something, he just put on it and
it took longer than 10 minutes. But, but
it's a single visit.
I know single visit.
Single visit.
Right.
So I asked him, I said, when are we going to do the mold stuff? He's like, oh, no.
Yeah, you don't need that anymore.
He's like, that little thing, that's like a camera. It mapped out your tooth, and we're printing that up now. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was, I was astonished. I thought I knew something when I was like, come on, let's get this mold made.
I know what you're going to do today. Come on. I'm ready. I'm prepared.
What about legal ramifications? So here's where I'm going with this. In the Army, we had a guy who got sent to the dentist. We were about to go overseas, and they were doing medical checkups, dental checkups on everybody. And at that point, if you had something wrong, they just pulled the tooth. So they didn't have to worry about follow-up care or anything going wrong. So he goes to the dentist. They pull the wrong tooth. So he comes back, and the first dentist is looking, and they're like, oh, well.
That stinks.
Yeah, stinks for you. Now go back and get the right tooth pulled. There's nothing he can do. Like, that's tough luck for him. In the regular world, what kind of legal ramifications could come if you did something like that, or is that liability something you have to worry about?
Well, it's something you have to carry insurance for, and my take always has been that if you build good relationships with patients, usually they're not going to sue you, and so something might happen that could cause somebody to take legal action. I mean, that's something that if you wanted to go after your dentist for, that's why he carries malpractice insurance. You could go after him for it, I guess. I'm real fortunate. I've been doing it 45 years, and I've only had I settled one complaint with lawyers. So to me, the guy told me when it settled, he said, if this is the only problem you ever have, count yourself fortunate. But I've never had. For me, the deal is I build good relationships with my patients, and then we work things out. If something, I mean, in dentistry, the nature of dentistry is it will not always work, and so now what he did, then what the trouble is, he should have probably maybe paid for an implant. Just said, okay, I'll get this taken care of, and I'll pay for your implant if that happens. So.
Well, this was a military doctor, and they didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, he was covered, wasn't he? He was covered, wasn't he?
Moving on to a different. We like to do abrupt subject changes here sometimes. Okay. So
that's how we roll.
Talking about suing dentists, I'm ready for an abrupt subject change.
This may or may not be better. Have you been to jail this week?
No, I hadn't been this week. Yeah,
so
I haven't been to this.
I don't know if Ryan knows this or not, but he used to go to jail every week.
And I took a member of my church with me.
Okay.
Rick used to do a prison ministry and would go, was it on Wednesdays?
Wednesday nights.
Wednesday nights would go to the prison. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we would go to I had prison fellowship. I had done some work with prison fellowship before, Ann and I and David Allen and Pat Allen used to go to the old state penitentiary and do a Bible study on Wednesday nights. And those were hardened. Those were guys that had been gotten off death row. I mean, they had behaved and had been given some freedom. But I was always interested in prison stuff because I liked Chuck Colson and I'd read his books. And so I just had the opportunity to go to CCA. I don't guess it's CCA anymore, but it's out off of Harding Place in Antioch. And we'd go every Wednesday night and do a Bible study in the chapel. And we would have about, we'd run from 15 to 25 people, something like that. Some weeks is less, some weeks is more. These were low. These were not major kind of offenses. You might be in there years, but they weren't major kind of offenses. And we just did a Bible study and built relationships with them, and it was good times. Jim and I enjoyed it. We just hit a time where it was time to end it because it was about 20 years that we went out there.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So, and we still have friends. I had a guy call me this week. I don't have many, but I've got 3 or 4 guys that I still stay in touch with after all those years. So they would come and go, and I know there was life change, but you didn't see a whole lot of life change. You just kept going, trusting God that he would produce life change if you just shared the word. So, it was we really enjoyed going. I enjoyed going with Jim. That was good. So, but we just hit a point where we gave it up. My first experience in the jail, I used to be the dentist in the jail. And so down at the old workhouse, which is gone now, there was a dental clinic. And so one morning a week, I'd go down there and work on teeth. And the only exciting thing that happened there was when Fate Thomas was sheriff, one day somebody had some kind of heart incident in one of the units, and they brought him and dropped him off at the dental office because there was no medical doctor there. And so me and the nurse in the dental office started doing CPR on him, picked him up, carried him out to the street, and he survived. Somewhere I have a letter from Fate Thomas thanking me for that, but that was I think Life Change Bible Study is better than CPR in the old workhouse. But we did that, and we enjoyed it thoroughly. And like I said, there's a guy who was in my office this week that I guess won't say his name, but we met him there. So,
wow,
that's awesome.
Those were good. Those were good years. Yeah.
Going back to the missions trip, what would be I kind of going back to what Ryan was saying, horror stories or what entertainment stories for us as far as. We know you're doing extractions on teeth and that kind of stuff, but your environment and your surrounding, any trouble that followed you or that you had to get out of or anything?
No, I can't ever remember trouble. Usually the missionaries would tell us that there was a potential for trouble after we left. So one year we were in Mali, and she told me, she said, do not wander, because if you're on a mission trip and you're comfortable, you sort of wander around. And she told me, don't wander off. You need to stay close to here. A guy was kidnapped from here. So when they tell you that, you sort of stay close. You don't roam around if they tell you that.
You listen and obey.
So there was never a time that I feared for my safety or anything like that. It was that was one time. One time I was called before the army in Venezuela, and I was told the day before the army wanted to see me. And so
that's never a good phrase.
No, especially there.
So I went to our leader and I said, "So the army has asked to see me. Do you have any suggestions?" He said, "Well, let's pack a box of medicines, and we'll deliver them a box of medicines." And so here I was in my little scrubs, and I went in, and the room was full. I mean, there must have been 12 guys in uniforms there. What are you doing here? Why are you doing this? What is, And so I just said, I come bearing gifts. and it was no big deal. But at the time when I was going, it was a big deal.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Probably more
That
of
is
my
crazy.
stories that get off track are more stupid, funny kind of stories.
Oh, that's what we like
That's
here.
what
Yeah, I
we-
know, but we got to get to Ann will kill me if I come home and I don't get to the serious stuff.
Well, let's do one stupid funny, and then we'll do a follow up with the serious. So dealer's choice on this one.
Okay. Well, the one that caught me the worst, and I guess you could edit this out if you need to, is one year we were in a children's home in Venezuela, and I was not, if any of our Spanish-speaking friends are watching us, I was not proficient in Spanish. And so the little kids from the orphanage, would sit down, and we were just checking their teeth. And so since I was not proficient, I was trying to ask him how old he was, and I said, "Cuántos años?" And his eyes got real big. And the missionary with me started laughing. And I didn't know what was going on, but I mean, his guys got big. And so the missionary said, "You just ask him how many buttholes he has." And I figured that was a great story for y'all. I know the audience out there didn't think that was very cute, but I figured that was a great story for y'all.
That's perfect.
And
That's
he-
perfect.
He's,
That's perfect.
He settled down, and he regained his composure, and that all that worked out fine. That worked out fine, but it was a little bit touch and go there for a few minutes.
Thought I was at the dentist.
Yeah. I understood after it all happened why he was a little bit worried.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of the funnier stories I have. If you wanted another one year we were in Mali, and I think Ken Williams wasn't on this trip, and so we had done a day of extractions. There was 2 medical doctors and myself, and they'd done their stuff, and so the chief of the village invited us over, and he had a delicacy to feed us, and so he sat down, and Randy Oliver leaned over to me and said, "Those are cow brains." And so in the
Wow.
big metal bowl, there was the skull of a cow, and they gave you crackers, and you went in and scooped out the brains. And so I ate them, and it was, I didn't notice anything about it.
Fano would
Fano's-
not have touched that.
Fano's drooling over there going, "Man, why wasn't that right here in front of
I'd have
me?"
been shunned and kicked out.
So
He
the
would have
worst-
he would have had a meal of crackers at that whatever.
Well,
That's some chicken
it
fingers.
worked out okay because when we left, the guys that I was with, the medical doctor said, "Did you eat that?" I said, "Well, didn't you eat it?" And they said, "Heavens no, we weren't going to eat that stuff. We just pretended we were eating it." And I went, "Well, I wish you'd have told me." So the whole rest of that trip, I kept, "How do I feel?" How do I feel? So, that was...
That takes the cake.
But I ate it, it was, and I didn't think it was bad, and it seemed like it had been cooked thoroughly.
Right.
I'm sure it tasted just like kangaroo.
Or ostrich.
Yeah, y'all had better stuff than that. I've eaten a few strange things
That-
on mission trips.
Wow.
That takes me straight to Indiana Jones, one of the Indiana
yeah.
Jones movies
Yes.
where they have the little monkey.
The monkey.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Monkey brain. Yes.
But wow. Yeah, Fano, that would have been a feast of crackers for him.
It would have
nothing
been.
else.
I would
Well, I
have been
think
full on
for-
crackers.
For the other medical doctors, it was a feast of crackers.
Sure.
They tricked me. They sort of,
Yes.
so
When you go on these trips, you're taking everything.
I take
Like-
everything that I'd need for an extraction. So I take all my instruments, take all the anesthetic. I take topical anesthetic, even though you really probably don't need it in those situations. I just take everything I might need, all the gauze, all the extraction instruments, all the needles, all the, everything that I would need, I take.
And as far as, here you're swapping out tools and they're being sterilized every day or whatever the case is. What about there? How do you go about?
We take the strongest liquid sterilizing agent we can, and it's not as good as putting them in a unit or anything, and we leave them in there for 10 minutes. So somebody sort of has to be watching that, and it's called cold sterilizer. So that's what you take for that. I have seen guys. Ken Williams and I saw a guy that he actually started a fire, put a pot on top of it, boiled the water, dropped his instruments in there, but that takes too long. It's too much trouble. So,
how many people on average would you see on one of these trips?
One more than Ken Williams.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
It's a man after my own heart right there.
Probably the
awesome.
most I ever saw was in the Philippines one day. One year, I saw 100 patients in a day.
Wow.
But that's a lot. So nowadays, at almost 70 years old, if I see 40, that's 40 dental patients in one day is pretty good clip. But I have seen, Ken and I in Africa, we've seen 70 a day. Well, he would see 70 and I'd see 71.
Right, right.
So the trick there is never to give up your number first.
So even these days, do they have anything as far as like instruments go? Like I know back in the day they probably didn't, but do they have like anything, or is it still pretty just whatever you bring?
Yeah, it's what I bring.
It is
what I bring.
Okay.
Now there are some dentists even in the Madison area that have clinics, or the Goodlettsville area have clinics in some countries.
Okay.
And there's a country, I went to Uganda 2 years ago, and there's a guy went over there from the States and started a dental clinic.
Okay.
And so they carried out on their clinics everything you needed. And they
Gotcha.
would even take a generator, so you
wow.
could have sort of do fillings like that and stuff.
Huh.
So, but most of the time on my early trips, for sure,
Mm-hmm.
you took the instruments you needed and the anesthetic you needed, and you just
Gotcha.
worked with what you had.
So when you're doing these or whatever, and you're like you have a patient in front of you and everything, are you getting to have not a relationship with them? Like you're not getting to like talk to them and understand everything, but do you have time to talk to them, or is it just like all right, sit down, be quiet, open your mouth?
Yeah, it's not quite that harsh, Ryan.
Okay.
It's not quite that harsh, Ryan. But you do have to keep moving.
Yeah.
And so usually in those instances, you trust there's a system where there is somebody along the way at some station that's going to share the gospel with them or tell them about God.
Yeah.
And so, and that is not necessarily the dentist's job. Now, I have a method I use, or I have a little saying I use with patients, but you have to keep moving. You can't.
Yeah.
But there's like last week I was working in Madison with Brentwood Baptist Church mobile dental clinic, and so I'm working. There's another dentist working, and we're loving on people, and we might be praying with them, but there's somebody indoors that's sharing the gospel with them.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's the way that goes. So when I am in a clinic overseas and I have a translator, which usually I do, I try to always end this way. I say, in a few days, your pain will go away. But I want you to remember when that pain goes away that on this day, friends of Jesus came and helped you get past that pain. And there is a way to follow Jesus.
Amen.
And that's all I say.
Awesome.
You can't. It's hard to. Obviously, it's hard to share the gospel in a different language. Their heart language.
That was going to be my question. What kind of language barriers do you face?
Well, you've already heard the one años and años. So, but you learn in the Philippines. I would say nga 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 nga, and that meant open. Or I hope no Philippine listener says that's not what it means. And you just learn abre la boca, cierra la boca, close your mouth, abre la boca, open. Donde le duele, where's the pain? And it was always trouble when the mother, you'd see a kid and you'd ask these questions, and then the mother thought you knew Spanish. And so she came over and started asking you every orthodontic, dental question, and you went, no. So you just learn enough to get you by,
Right.
usually. But Africa, it's much harder to communicate than like Central America or stuff. So
For lack of translators, or
well, I couldn't learn how to speak in Africa. That's just now in Mali and Benin, it was a little French would get you by, but it's easier to speak Spanish than it is those other languages. So yeah, that's it's just one of the great joys of my life. I've just it's been a great thrill to do all that. So
ODOTI.
ODOTI.
That means hello. How are you in Ugandan? Since he mentioned Uganda, that's all I got.
Somebody
somebody
verify that.
And you can also speak a little English in Uganda.
Yes,
too.
yes.
Yeah.
They were British territory, street signs in English, and they drive on the opposite side of the road from us. But they do speak a lot of English there. Yeah.
And I worked with some Ugandan dentists, and they were really top of the line guys.
So one of the things you were saying was you've been with organizations, and you've also been with just by yourself, just going. Which ones do you prefer? Which ones do you feel are more efficient? Or
well, if you're going by yourself and you connect with the whole key is connecting with somebody over there that knows what they're doing.
Okay.
And so I can go by myself, but connect up with a good group over there.
Gotcha.
And so, or you can go with your group here, and your group connects up with people over there too. But it just mainly depends on connecting up with a good group down there. I know when our teams have gone to Peru, there have been occasions where there wasn't as much support in Peru as they would have liked. And so you're most effective if you've got good ground people on the other side of the... One of the neat things that happened one year, and I can't remember, I think Ken was with us on this trip, is there was a mountain village in Mali that was sort of very remote, and there was one Christian in that village, and he died. The missionary said this was providential, but he died the day before our team arrived, so we were invited to his funeral.
Oh, wow.
So actually, they didn't have caskets; they just sort of had him on a little straw mat, and had him covered with just a sheet, a colored sheet. And so we had the privilege of, his name was Samuel, and so Ken and I and the ladies, I think my sister, Becky Couts, there were probably others that were there that I can't remember. And that was a really special thing. And so during the service, a pastor stood up to talk just as a part of the service. It really wasn't a service, it was a community get-together, so anybody could speak. And so one of the men in the village stood up and said, I couldn't understand it, but I was told later, what are we doing letting these Christians talk at his funeral? They're not even part of our group. Why should we even let them be here? And so it was a little friction. That there was no danger or worries. It was just like, why are these Christians? Because Samuel was the only Christian in the village. And the pastor had come up from the village in the valley to do part of the funeral. And so, but Ken and I helped carry his little, wasn't a casket, a little mat, and laid him down in that tomb. That was a memorable event. And the missionary said, she told me, she said, those people in that village will never forget. They don't view it as coincidence that Christian people were here to bury Samuel. And she said, you never know. I don't know if there's any Christians in that village. But the way missionaries talk about it is, in a village you go from 0 to 1, and then from 1 to a church. And so, but after he died, I don't know what happened to that village. We just called it the Mountain Village. But that was as I was thinking about this, that was one of those great stories I remember. A very memorable night was I'd been working, they'd been working in the fields and stuff, and so there was a missionary there, a veterinarian, who was going to go out and speak to a group of people in a village. And in Africa, if you're traveling at night, it is just dark. And I will never forget this night. This goes back to 83. We got to this place, and this veterinarian was preaching the gospel and being translated, and he knew a little bit of their language. and it was dark, and there were about 50 people there, and he was preaching, and I was sort of in the back, and there was the only light was a lantern hanging on the fence. And I just that night, the greatness of God grabbed me. I mean, more so than almost any night of my life. It was just, here I was on the backside of nowhere, and God was there, and His work was going on. That was a memorable story. That was a memorable story.
So while you're gonna check your notes there for one more story, I've pulling teeth.
Yeah.
Is it just pliers basically? When you go to pull someone's tooth, is it just medical pliers? Is that really what it is?
No. What you do when you go to pull a tooth is there's these instruments that some dentists use and some don't, but they're called luxators. And it's real sharp at the end, and you can get it in between the tooth and the bone. So you push it in between to get to the ligament between the tooth and the bone, and you just loosen the tooth up that way. And so you go around the tooth to loosen it up. And really, you'd rather take hold. I'm not going to use the word grab. You'd rather take hold of the tooth after it's been loosened a little bit. And it is true in Benin, where Bob and Becky Kaus lived. Those folks had hard bone, and you couldn't get out every tooth you took out over there. But here, you'd use the luxator, you'd get in between, go down the ligament between the bone and the tooth, and very gently ease it up. And our truth is, I'm not an oral surgeon, but I'm pretty good at taking out teeth, and so, but most of that I learned on the mission field.
So in Benin, do you think that's just from their diet or things they chew on?
It's just, theirs is just their bone structure. They're just, and I'm sure it might be that way in other parts of West Africa, but their bone was just really hard, and it was genetics.
Okay.
They just had hard, big bone.
Wow.
It wasn't their roots as much as their bone. And bone is it's too much dental, but bone is kind of spongy. So if your bone's real hard, you just can't get that movement. But in the other way I was talking about, in the States, bone can be pushed back. A tooth can't change its shape, but I can change the shape of bone.
Wow.
With those instruments. So, but since bone is spongy, that's what you do. You loosen it up and get it out.
Interesting.
Never knew that.
Yeah.
Nope.
I did not.
Are you scared of the
Good
dentist? That's a yes.
I mean, as I got older, I'm not. But I mean, what kid? All kids are scared of the dentist when they're thinking every time.
I beg to differ.
I never
Not
was.
all kids are scared of the
I
dentist.
never
I
was.
wasn't.
My child's scared to death.
I remember I was maybe 10 years old, sitting in the dentist chair, and I fell asleep. I was always comfortable and fell asleep. And
That was Ken Williams.
no, this was. I don't know who this was, but I fell asleep just because it's like, lay me back, I'm out.
Yeah, mine's the anticipation of getting nicked. That just gets me.
I always told.
I don't like going. I'll go, but I don't think I was ever scared.
See, this is why dentists have the highest suicide rate among a lot of professions. You people just don't like us.
It's a lot of pressure. I sit there and I think, I was like, man, they're doing good. They haven't even nicked me or whatever. And you go through the whole thing. It's a lot of pressure. It's an art. It's an art.
It is. It's like anything.
I don't see
else.
how it's done.
It's like nurses, that draw blood. Some do it better than others.
Right.
But
Yeah.
But I always told my kids, if they had to have some kind of work done or something, the first shot's the work. Like when they first go to that's going to be the worst part, and then it's not like you won't feel anything. You'll be all right. So, and they, when they were real little, they're nervous, and I'd pinch them. I was like, it's going to be easier than that. And then they were mad because I pinched them. But it was fun for me. But
I never liked going because when I'd get the first shot, and you're like, all right, you won't feel anything, and then I'd still feel like my nerves, I guess, in my mouth doesn't react to the shots or whatever. So I always had to get double or triple. I always get like 3-4 shots every time, and I would still somewhat feel it. So that was always my thing, was like, I'm still gonna feel it.
So do those tattoos, did they hurt when you got them?
Ironically, they
Well,
hurt a lot.
It's kind of funny you say that because
He's got another one coming.
he hurt my nerves when we played softball together too. So
Yeah.
it must just be him.
It happens. It happens. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Tyrant.
exactly. Well, we're going to wrap this up shortly, but I think we need to hear at least one more good story.
One more good story.
One more good story.
Like what kind of good story?
We're gonna put you to the test here.
Okay. Before I tell my last story, going on mission trips has been one of the great joys of my life, and I'm thankful that I have a wife that would let me leave for 2 weeks, and we've always tried to support each other in our ministry. So I support her in her ministry, and and she supports me in my ministries. But it has been the joy of my life to do this. One of the joys of my life. And so while I was doing one of the joys of my life once in the Philippines, it was our last day. Well, this was the same day. So we arrived at the clinic, and there were 4 guys there in Filipino. They weren't in Army uniforms. They were just in T-shirts and jeans, and they all had automatic weapons. Looked like machine guns, but I don't know what automatic weapons are. And I said, "Who are these people?" And they said, "They are the mayor's bodyguards." And I said, "Well, that's okay unless you change mayors every week or 2. And then that's not good." So then me and my friend I was with went over and had our pictures made with the guys. I still have that picture in my office of me having my pictures with the bodyguard. But later that day, we ran out of topical anesthetic. And so this patient came up, and he said, I was getting ready to numb it and give him a shot. And he looked at me and said, and I went, "What?" And he went, he wanted the topical anesthetic. He'd seen me using it. So I called the pharmacy, and I said, "David, do you have anything?" So I went to the pharmacy. And so he sent me back with some stuff that would work. And and I numbed the guy up with on the stick. He didn't know it was hemorrhoid ointment, but
I was waiting for it. I was like, "What is it? What is it going to be?"
And so
that in South America,
but he didn't feel a thing. It really worked like a charm.
That's all that matters.
Yeah,
that's all that matters.
So he didn't know. He did sort of act like maybe it didn't taste quite as good as that other stuff, but that was a humorous day that day. And so his lips didn't sort of pucker up or anything. Now, can you cut that out? So anyway,
Nope.
We're not cutting out anything.
But I did want to make sure that it has been one of the, and I still do local mission trips here in town. Brentwood Baptist Church has a mobile dental clinic, and so anyway, it has been the great joy of my life. So.
Well, one thing I take away from this is share Jesus wherever you are. You may not leave the country. You may not, go on mission trips on the other side of the world, but share Jesus wherever you are. Just like you talked about, even here doing, mobile dental work and community things here, and even in your office, sharing Jesus, having those relationships, because having a relationship with the dentist is going to make you feel better and all that kind of stuff. But that also opens that avenue to share Jesus. And, in the jail, I don't think many of us can imagine, a worse place to be really than in jail. Your freedom taken away and everything taken away, but you still have seen lives change because of that, because
Amen.
You were not afraid to share. And
Amen.
it doesn't even have to be anything that grand. It can be your neighbor at the grocery store, the gas station, wherever you happen to be. Share Jesus. And kind of like what you said, it doesn't have to be a full hour-long gospel presentation. It can just be one little short sentence or 2 sentences that just plant that seed and get people thinking.
Right.
And we appreciate you coming on and telling stories and sharing that, and also educating us about the dentist. No need to be afraid of the dentist. Go, people.
Nope.
That's right.
Every 6 months, get your
That's
teeth
right.
cleaned.
Don't go on
and-
Fridays.
Take care of
Don't
those
go on
teeth.
Fridays. Keep Fridays. Nope.
Yeah. And if you happen to play hockey, wear a face mask.
Yeah.
Or wear a mouth guard.
Yeah.
Or
That's
wear-
better than a mouth. Wear the face mask and the mouth guard.
So unfortunately, I'll tell I'll have a confession. That's what the girls kept saying. I'll confess to this. I'll have a confession. So, had my tooth knocked out. Told that story. Well, about 4 months before that happened, I was playing in a tournament, a hockey tournament, and another guy. Me and another guy were kind of both going for the puck. The puck was out there in the middle. We were both charging for it, and I don't know what it was in that time frame, but a lot of guys just swinging hockey sticks wildly. He swung, missed, and hit me in the lip and busted my lip, like cut my lip open. I had to go get stitches. And Christy was like, "Yeah, you need to wear a face mask." My wife, Christy, wear a face mask and all this. And I was like, "Nah, I'm good." Like, it's never happened before. And then 4 months later, got my tooth. The stitches weren't that expensive. I mean, really. The dental work, that was a little more pricey.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I bought a $20 face mask and never had that issue again. So
At least you were prepared, though.
another
Right.
public service announcement: wear a
Right.
face mask.
Be smart.
Yeah, be smart. Ryan, take us away.
Yeah, so today's Bible verse is going to be from Matthew. Matthew chapter 28, 19 and 20. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age.
Amen.
So just like Rick shared and gave examples of, take the word of Jesus wherever you go. Go and make those disciples, and he's going to bless you through that, whether you think so or not. It's going to happen.
Amen.
Brush
So-
and floss.
Yes. Make sure you do that. Quit chewing ice.
Yeah. Wear
Yeah.
mouth guards.
That
Wear
ice
mouth
thing
guard.
is, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all,
That threw me.
man.
So thank you for getting us to 100 subscribers, but we're not done. We're just getting this thing started. So please continue to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your families. We want to make this thing big. So we enjoy it. Email us, podcast@parkwaybc.net, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to GPS to God. Please leave us a rating on iTunes and also subscribe on YouTube and hit the bell if you'd like to receive notifications when new episodes air.